What, the new car? No, actually, it's a sales car. We sold it, we just prepped it. Lexus IS 200. If you ever played the game Black Monday, the Getaway, these cars are like brilliant. I quite like it actually. I wouldn't mind one. Anyway, I'm going to go and see Monica because she had something happen to her last night. I'm going to see how she's doing. Good morning, Molly. It's I'm actually glad you're still alive, mate.
Tell me about it.
What did you have done to you last night?
Vaccination.
A what? Could you say that a bit louder, please?
A vaccination. A vaccine.
Do you know what?
COVID-19 vaccine.
I can't believe you have now donated money to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Oh, sorry, they've broke up, haven't they? No, it's okay. Don't worry. Bill Gates is going to need all the money he can get now. He's split up from his wife because she's going to fleece him for everything. Anyway, how's your arm, mate?
It hurts.
You know, when I had vaccinations like a year ago, I had a dead arm for about 3 days.
Oh, really? Great.
That was a bit of an inconvenience for me, no, not so much for you. Anyway, have a nice day.
Thank you, and you?
I've got to go to work because I've got to do like a little engine strip down.
Mm-hmm.
This is the final part in our trilogy of the
mondeo.
the taxi engine that blew up.
Oh, cool.
So what have you got to do today?
Well, you know, bookkeeping, accounting, and all that. Not interesting stuff.
Oh, that computer you got there,
Mm.
what is that, a HP?
Yeah, HP something.
Is that an all-in-one, like the Apples?
Yeah.
They look pretty nice, I quite like it.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually. It's very fast.
Oh, also I like your jacket,
Thanks.
very trendy.
I know.
Cool.
I'm trying.
Right mate, well have a nice day.
Thank you.
We will see you later.
Okay.
Bye!
Bye.
Alright then, today's the day. We're going to do a little autopsy job on this Mondeo 2 litre diesel engine. If you haven't been following the story on this, I'll go over it rather briefly. Taxi has been driven along, it started missing, getting clattery, it lost power to the point where the car wouldn't drive any faster than 5 miles an hour, and it was rattling its tits off. And basically, when it ground to a halt and stopped, it wouldn't restart. The car was then parked up for about 2 weeks until we got around to changing the engine. I've removed this old engine, I've put another engine in, the car's gone. But this engine, I want to take it apart and find out what went wrong with it. I'm pretty convinced it's in the bottom end, and I'm putting my money on either a main bearing or a big end shell that's picked up on something, or it's lost its oil pressure and it is heat seized. That's what I believe slowed the car down. So I'm going to take the sump off. There was a video I made over a year ago where we had a similar problem where the oil pump chain on one of these engines had snapped in 2 places. And also one of the mounting points for the oil pump had snapped off, like the oil pump had been jolted. Subsequently the engine lost all its oil feed and it heat seized one of the main bearing journals up. In that particular video, which you can watch here, I took the cylinder head off, I took the pistons out, I took quite a lot apart. So I don't really need to do that on this car, considering I'm pretty convinced the problem's in the bottom half. So what I'll do to start with is take the sump off and see if we can find anything. And when I find out what's gone wrong with this car, with this engine, then I'm going to try and explain, because there's more of a story to this than what I've actually let on at the minute. So we'll find out what the problem is first, and then I'll tell you the full story. Right, let's get the oil drained out to start with. Well, at least we know there's plenty of oil in the engine. I'm now going to flip the engine upside down. This could be messy. This is it. I'll tell you what, it's heavy. Oh, it's leaking. Flipping water pissing out. Oh my God. Dirty. So we just got a whole load of 8mm bolts to undo. So this is it. Are we going to see anything? Come on, sump, loosen off, all the bolts are undone. Whoa, it's free. Da da da. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh. There's a lot of metal shavings in this sump. That doesn't look good. However, I will say the oil pump chain is intact and that's actually still moving, so I'm going to assume we've still got oil pressure, although I'll check this oil pump out in a bit. I was kind of hoping the oil pump chain would be broken. Anyway, now this whole like sandwich casing has going to have to come off, so it's a whole ring of 6mm Allen key bolts. The actual bracket that holds your air conditioning compressor and alternator and all that, you don't have to take that off. You only have to remove this 13mm bolt, which goes onto your like sump sandwich plate. But I'm going to take the whole bracket off anyway, just for convenience. I'm just going to get this little solenoid out of the way, which is covering one of the 13mm bolts. There. And then I'll just whack all these 13mm out. Now obviously that oil pump chain is not broken, it hasn't had a sudden loss of oil pressure because we've got the oil pressure switch here, we've got a oil pressure control solenoid as well, and a oil level low sensor. So I mean, if there was any kind of like oil pressure, serious oil pressure problem, any one of these would have probably flagged it up on the dash. Right, last bolt. Anyway, let's see if this casing comes off. Oh, it's free. Right. Ooh, we're off. Yep, and we got some more rather large pieces of metal here. Oh my God, this is not good. 3 10mm bolts, and that's going to get this oil pump out of the way. That's the last one, we're loose. Woo! There, get that chain off. Right, with this oil pump, I'm going to turn the sprocket here and I'm going to see the oil come out of here. So if I, wrong way, yeah, see that? As I turn the sprocket the other way, it sucks it back in. If I turn it anti-clockwise, it all comes out, blah, 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 like that. In actual fact, if I can show this here, if I turn it one way, see the oil was coming out the bloody bottom of the oil pump. So it says to me the oil pump is pumping, although what I think I should do is probably take it apart anyway and have a quick look inside it. I don't think I'm going to see much, but I'm pretty convinced the oil pump was actually working perfectly fine. There's loads of oil inside it. I am pretty convinced that there's nothing wrong with this oil pump, but just for the hell of it, I'm going to take it apart. Last one. In fact, I'll go as far as to say I've never ever had a problem with one of these oil pumps at all. Right, will it separate? Oh, it's coming. I think there's little dowels on there which are holding it quite tight. Yep, here we go. Come on. Woohoo! Da, da, da. It's all going to fall to pieces, I bet. Ta-da! Yep, I would say everything there looks good. I can't see no gouges, no scratches, no trenches, especially up here as well on the actual casing. That, yep, that all looks nice and clean. Just give this a bit of a wipe. Yeah, these are the veins. I reckon these just pull out, you know. Yeah. That's definitely worn, without a shadow of a doubt. That is worn. So, but there again, after 257,000 miles, how much wear would you expect on that? Oil pumps do wear. Yeah, I'm not actually seeing a whole lot going on in here that could be wrong. In fact, if I remember, the last one of these I took apart on the engine I stripped down about a year ago. I think these veins, the amount of wear in these veins, they were all about the same as that. So I reckon that's fine. But there again, if we did rebuild that engine, which we're not going to, I wouldn't be using that again anyway. I'd put a brand new oil pump in it. So I'm just going to remove this plate now. And with any luck, this should just hook off. Oh, yeah. There we go. Just in case anybody is wondering, we won't be rebuilding this engine. I just don't get involved in that anymore. Everything on this engine, anything that's good, like this oil cooler assembly, the fuel filter housing, oh blimey, there's all sorts that are good in it. But put it this way, there's a high pressure fuel pump on this engine. There were 4 injectors which were still good, and also underneath the rocker cover, the 16 valve rockers, if you had to buy them brand new, that's going to be the best part of £500. So I'll be stripping this engine of all the good bits on it, and then we'll just give the block away to the actual scrap man. Going back a bit, and this is going back some time, we did used to rebuild engines. I think we used Ivor Searles in Soham. We used to have, and this was the days of the Ford Sierras and the Pinto engines. We'd have like a couple of Pinto engines lined up, ready for the next Sierra or Granada, Mark III Granada that would be. Maybe a Vauxhall Cavalier engine. Yeah, quite often we get a blown up engine, we'd take it all apart, we'd get all the machine work done at Ivor Searles. They'd send all the bits back to us and we'd rebuild them. That was the days when we actually had the time to do that sort of thing. But no, those days have long gone, especially for us they have. Anyway, let's get on. I think if I just spin the engine over a bit, and I'll start off by taking the big ends caps off. So I'll just spin that over first. I can't actually see anything wrong at the minute, but I'm sure there is. I'd normally undo these with a bar, but as it's scrap, let's air gun them. Right, this is number 1, big end shell. And that looks good. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Right, in fact I just got that wrong, because I called that one by the timing belt side number 1, which isn't, that's number 4. This is number 1, which is by the flywheel hide. Oh my god! Hello! I think we've just found the problem. Look at all the play in that! That's what our rattle is. Well, I suppose I better take the nuts off then and see what's going on. There's the bloody nuts off! Come on! separate, separate, separate. Da, da, da. There's not even a shell there. There's nothing at all. Oh, well, there's the shell. Hang on. It's still on the crankshaft. Oh, oh God. Right, let's just have a quick look at this bloody big end shell. That flipping heck. Look, look, look. That is actually worn like wafer thin. Oh my God. If this is the one that come out of number 4, you can see like the thickness there, and compare that to the thickness of this shell. It's like there's nearly nothing left of this one. So the question is, why is this shell worn out? Right, this is number 4 journal, big end journal. That's all like chromy, nice and smooth and shiny. That's the good one. But this one here, number 1, our faulty one, you see how that's all scratched up now? I'm telling you now, there is no way you can just put a new set of shells in that and that'll be all right. That crankshaft is all scored, and that will knock out a new set of shells. So in order to actually fix this crankshaft's going to need to be sent off to get reground. Right, let's have a look at numbers 2 and 3. Cylinder number 3. Ooh, we got a good one. That's how they should be. Plenty of meat on that shell. Nice and like silvery white. That's good. Number 2. Come on. Doesn't want to separate. It's coming off. Oh, oh my God. Oh, nasty. That one's in a bad way. Shit the bed. I would go as far to say, where is the shell gone? It looks like it's completely disintegrated, or it's welded to the bloody crankshaft. That is... It doesn't even want to move. Let me see if I can tap this down. Yep, there's the shell. I'm trying to get the actual connecting rod out of the way. Come on, that is not good. Way, it's gone. I'll note that the actual oil feed hole in the journal still seems to be okay and unclogged. Let's get this shell out. You don't want to come out. Oh dear. Hey, come on. It's actually, the shell is actually stuck to the conrod. I can't get it off. It's completely like welded itself onto the conrod. No way. Hey, finally. Oh my God, that is absolutely knackered. Whether you can see down there properly or not, I don't know, because it's a bit dark inside the engine, but the shell there is welded itself to the conrod, and I just cannot prise the shell off the conrod. It's come up here, but it's just this part here is absolutely welded solid. It just will not it will not come off. Look at that. I'll try and move it. not the camera. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it now because we can obviously see what the damage is done. That must have got seriously hot. That one there, that's the reason the engine slowed down to 5 miles an hour, where it literally seized itself onto the crankshaft. And just out of curiosity, let's have a look at some of the main bearing shells. This is the one about number 2 cylinder, which is furthest away from the, well, almost furthest away from the oil pump. Let's see if anything's going on in here. Ooh. Oh, it's definitely picked up in the middle. Where's a bit of rag? Quick, quick, quick. Let's give that a clean. It's definitely started to pick up in the middle there. It's definitely grooved. It was on its way. Not that bad, but starting. From what I'm seeing here, there is a bit of a, like a bluey tinge, so this was starting to warm up. But these thrust washers, they're okay. I'll take this last end cap off. This is right by the flywheel side. It's probably going to need a bit of manhandling to get this one out, because I've got the bloody rear main oil seal there as well. Oh, it's moving. Come on. There we go. What's this one look like? Oh. Oh my God. In actual fact, this one's better. Oh, that's as clean as a whistle. At 257,000 miles, that's what it should look like. Absolutely perfect, that one is. And there's your rear main journal right by the flywheel side. That's absolutely perfect, that is. That looks fine. And your rear main oil seal. Bye-bye. Yeah, that's all good at the end. I'll just take the journal out by the cam belt side. Just to check. Yep. That one is absolutely perfect. No problem whatsoever. I'm not taking the engine apart no further today. I've seen all I needed to see. I will say this though, looking back in hindsight, no matter what route I would have taken, it wasn't going to end well. The car would have still needed a new engine, and I'm going to explain that to you now, because as I said earlier, there's more to this story than what I've actually let on at the minute. So now I'm going to go through the whole sordid experience. Try not to fall asleep, please. Anyway, so basically what happened was, the taxi pulls in here, it is running like a complete and utter pig. It's like chugging and missing, and it's got a complete lack of power. So I plugged the scanner in, and amongst certain ECU codes, which I can't remember now, there were a couple of low fuel pressure codes. So instantly, of course, what I do is, I then carry out a fuel injector leak-off test and found fuel injector number 4 to be faulty. It was leaking far too much fuel off to the tank. That explained my low fuel pressure. But I kind of thought to myself, because if I kind of sat there in the car, in the driver's seat, with the engine running and I revved it, it didn't rev cleanly, if you know what I mean. It just didn't. It just seemed slow at revving. Like there's no, like the turbo wasn't working whatsoever. It seemed a bit odd to me, and I thought to myself, well, one injector's not going to do that. One injector would probably cause it to go into limp mode if you put your foot down under load when you were driving it. So there was that little thing in my mind, but then the whole engine, the whole top end of the engine sounded like loud, if you know what I mean. And the brake vacuum pump was making kind of like a clicking noise. And because I've been around these engines quite a while, I know certain noises, and when brake vacuum pumps on these engines get a bit noisy, I know why. The reason is they're not getting a proper oil feed to them, and the reason for that is your camshaft chain. You've got the tensioner below your chain, and when the nylon guides on the tensioner break up, get worn out and disintegrate, then what happens is the oil feed that goes into your tensioner, it's not actually working the tensioner anymore. The oil is just spraying everywhere. So the oil is not going across the engine to the actual brake vacuum pump as it should be. My little test for that is when the engine's running, I remove the oil filler cap and I put a piece of paper like this above where you would fill the oil up, and what will happen is you'll get a great big like splodging of oil spraying onto the piece of paper almost straight away. If everything was fine, you'd only may get a few spots going that paper, but when the tensioners are broken up, the oil comes out the oil filler hole like it sprays out like you would not believe, and subsequently you're losing oil pressure. So I thought to myself, right, this is something that's not new. I've had this numerous times now. It needs a new timing chain and it needs a new timing chain tensioner. So I took the rocker cover off, which is a fair bit of work. I fitted a new chain in it and a new tensioner. I put it all back together. Plus I fitted one brand new fuel injector in cylinder number 4, which is by the timing belt side. Started it up, ran it on the ramp, and everything seemed fine, although the engine did still seem a little bit louder than what it should have sounded like. Well, I didn't think too much of it, but it was still in my mind about the actual revving of it. It did seem to rev a bit cleaner. I will say this though, when I took the rocker cover off, because the chain tensioner was all basically disintegrated, if I was going to make a video about this chain tensioner, I wish I had now, but because I've already done one in the past, I mean, it's like I haven't got the pictures of this tensioner, it's all gone in the bin now. But anyway, when I did take the rocker cover off, the chain was as slack as hell. So it was kind of making me think, maybe because the chain is really slack, that's obviously affecting the running of it. So I thought that might have something to do with the revving of it, although I weren't convinced. But anyway, it was all back together and running. Seemed fine on the ramp, just still a little bit noisy. I then took the car up the road, went for a drive in it, and that's when it started to play up. At first it started to sort of like just jolt a little bit, and then it got worse and worse and worse, and it developed into like a misfire, and then it got really, really rattly until the car just lost power, ground down to like 5 miles an hour, chugging along, or rattling along. I pulled it into car sales, luckily, and then switched the engine off and it wouldn't restart after that. So we left it, got another engine for it because I could tell it was in the bottom end. And then obviously 2 weeks later we brought the car down here, in which I managed to get it started here in this shed. And then I could definitely hear like something in the bottom end's gone. Now, here is my theory of what's gone wrong. I believe that engine was actually ruined before I'd even started, before I even fitted a chain to it. And you may well ask, why is it that the big end shells have buggered up and seized the engine? Why hasn't the camshaft seized up? Seems they're further away from the oil pump than anything. My answer is that the camshafts are just spinning. The big ends are actually under load. They are working a heck of a lot harder than what the camshaft journals are. And the 2 big end shells that have played up, which is cylinders number 1 and 2, are the ones furthest away from the oil pump. So, judging by the amount of other things that are wrong with this car, because it's one of these cars that we probably haven't seen in a long time. It's been out on the road, working night and day. The driver in it's probably dragging it around, and I think this is a problem that the shells were starting to go because it's had lack of oil pressure over a long period of time, and that's what's caused this. It's coming to the garage. I found out that the chain and the chain tensioner were buggered, thinking, put a chain on it, that'll do, that'll solve it, not realising that there was further internal damage in the engine. Obviously I would have never known that, so I don't think no matter what I would, the only way I might have saved myself the pain of fitting a chain would have been if I'd have got in that car and drove it up the road myself, took it for a 4 or 5 mile run first myself. Then it might have blown up on me before I fitted the chain. But I didn't. I just decided that the chain needs doing, let's do that. And obviously there was further damage inside the engine. I wasn't to know that, but such is life. It's just another job. I don't actually mind, you know, because it all makes sort of like interesting content for videos. So I don't actually mind doing the work either. So, but that's it. As many of you would know anyway, if you get low oil pressure in an engine, generally speaking, it is the parts that are furthest away from the oil pump that will cop it first. Just like if you've got a heart problem, it's like you've got low blood pressure. It's your hands and feet that are going to sort of like turn blue first. So, yeah. But that's it. So, oh, by the way, do you want to see what my next job is? Anyway, now that's over, here's the next project. Flipping, I believe it's a cracked head. So, we're just going to change the engine. Up and away in my beautiful balloon. Yeah! Right, I reckon this will be a good place to end the video now. So have fun out there. Until the next time, see ya!